Alright, hey everybody. I didn't think I'd be doing another like presentation response video type thing already so soon. But this guy named Roy.R left a really big comment under my last video, and I've had like 4 people tell me that I need to respond to it. And so that's what this video is. We're going to be responding to Roy.R. So this is Roy.R, a presentation by Emmett's page. So this is the beginning to Roy.R's comment. He quotes me, he says, "I am not racist to Asians, and I was under the assumption that they were the smartest race on average, are already contradictions. But then you also attempted not to contradict yourself by saying, yes, calling an entire group of random people pedophiles is a very bold and harmful assuming to make, which we can all agree is stereotyping, yet by using the word entire, you subtly imply that stereotyping requires you to call out an entire group as such, rather than a majority, which is what stereotyping is." So right now we're gonna break down this first bit here, starting with this first sentence, okay? So here, Roy.R points out that there is a logical contradiction with what's being said here, and that I claim to not be racist, yet I contradict myself by furthering a racist stereotype, right? Then on this last big chunk here, the majority of the rest of this paragraph, he says that in an attempt to not contradict myself, I subtly provide an incorrect definition of stereotyping, and then I use that definition to claim that stereotyping is bad. Now, this whole introductory paragraph to this comment that Roy.R made is founded upon a fundamental misunderstanding of a joke within last video's presentation. So I have the slide in question here. This is the slide that Roy is referencing, right? And in order for me to guarantee that Roy understands the joke that I made here in this slide, I'm gonna have to, break it down piece by piece here. So this right here, we're starting out with the initial criticism that I am addressing. The kimonos originate from Eastern Asia. Are you racist? Do you hate Asian people, Emmett? Now, immediately upon hearing this, your first thought should probably be, this is fucking ridiculous. This makes no sense, right? Why is Emmett's page going to even respond to this at all? Why is this in the presentation, right? So, at this point in the slideshow, the viewer might expect me to completely dismiss this comment with a joke similar to how I addressed previous comments in the slideshow, right? But they're going to be in for a big surprise when I actually respond completely seriously. This is where the expectations of the viewer are broken, because I respond completely seriously to this ridiculous comment. There is no immediate joke or dismissal of the comment being made here, and that's important. And the point being made here is that I am not racist towards Asian people, right? So then, the final bit of this slide comes up, and this is the punchline to the slide. This is the joke that was being set up. This is the punchline to the joke. So, despite the entire purpose of this slide being to argue that I am not racist towards Asian people, I immediately follow this argument with a racist comment. This contradiction is intentionally done as a joke. And I am pretty sure that Roy.R did not understand the joke here, right? And there's some important context as to why this joke actually works really well. I think this is probably the funniest joke in the entire presentation, right? So the claim that I was responding to is an actual accusation that was being directed at me, and my response, aside from the end, is completely serious, right? I already pointed that out when we went over it. And if you pay attention to the other slides where I respond to comments, you can tell that I'm being completely serious at certain points in the response, but I also take the opportunity to make jokes every now and again, right? And to emphasize that this is the case, that I'm not just lying to you, we're going to go through each response slide in order, and I'm going to highlight the parts where I'm being 100% serious. And I want you to see if you can notice how I set up the viewer's expectations as we go through each slide. So we're starting out with this. This is the first criticism. Why are you telling people to dress up like classic Roblox? You're blinded by nostalgia and need to get with the times. So, you can read the rest of the response on screen. I mean, if you've seen the video, you know what I said. So I want you to take a moment right now and mentally highlight what part of my response here that you think I am being 100% real with. Okay? If you guessed this part, you would be completely correct. All right, that's the right answer. You did it. And let's move on to the next important criticism that I addressed in the video. You sound like a dictator. Why are you trying to tell other people what to wear? I'll give you a moment to recall or read your screen right now and mentally highlight what part of my response that you believe is 100% genuine. Okay, if you guessed all of that, you were correct. You're 100% right. You did it. Okay? Now, I'm hoping at this point that you can see a pattern with how these jokes are formatted, okay? Like what kind of jokes I'm putting into this presentation, right? Okay, next criticism I addressed. You claim to be capable of making better avatars than the kimonos, yet your avatar looks just as bad, if not worse. Okay, I'm gonna give you a moment here, mentally highlight. Okay, if you guessed this little itty bitty portion of this response being the 100% genuine part, you would be correct. You did it. Okay? And now, this is the next important criticism, and this is the one we already went over. This is the racism accusation, right? And we already know that these two bullet points are the only part of this response that are 100% genuine. Okay? And this is the last criticism I addressed. Why are you saying that all kimono users are pedophiles? Isn't that a bold and harmful assumption to make? Okay. Mentally highlight which part of my response that you think is 100% genuine. Okay. If you guessed the entire fucking thing, you did it, bro. You win. You win the game. Okay. If you got all 5 right, comment down below how many you got right. Okay. And don't lie to me, because I'll know. I'll know. All right. So I have a couple of important observations that I hope that you made as well as we went through that little game. Okay. First of all, if you were paying attention to the order of the slides and how much text was highlighted, you may have noticed that the slide with the least amount of highlighted text is directly before the slide with the racism accusation. This sets up the viewer's expectations that the following slide will be just as dismissive, especially considering the absurdity of the comment that I'm responding to. As we just went over, these expectations are important to set up so that the joke lands. Right? I've got a couple of disclaimers about this because, look, despite the fact that we just spent like 7 minutes probably analyzing and explaining that joke in as much depth as I possibly could, I'm not like a comedic genius or anything, right? In fact, the only part of this joke that could be considered planned was that I wanted to juxtapose a serious response to racism allegations with an obviously racist statement. The deeper setup of the joke, such as the previous slide being the least serious response, was entirely subconscious. It was completely unintentional. It just happened, okay? It just happened as I made it. Because I made this PowerPoint and recorded the presentation in about 2 hours, and I didn't even spell check it. I got a couple comments correcting some of my spelling. Like, I spelled egregious wrong. Very embarrassing. Very, very embarrassing. So, we're going to move on to the rest of Roy's comments. Okay, there's like 6 criticisms, 6 little nitpicks he had in his comment. And we're going to start with number 1. A lot of examples you've shown for why certain things are bad are either extremely cluttered or have little to no substance. And when there is a balance to it, which you did point out can work well if done right, yet never shown images of those as an example for how to make it look good, right? And to be real with you, this is a reasonable enough point to make for the presentation video on its own. However, I don't think Roy.R knows that the presentation is a companion piece to the original Making Good Furry Avatars video. Because in that video, there's a segment I recorded where I go through several profiles of kimono head users, and most of them are not nearly as cluttered as the singular example I used in the slideshow. And in regards to the last bit of this point, where he points out that I did not show any examples of good-looking mesh head avatars, I probably should have made or found an avatar that uses mesh heads in a way that I like, but I didn't. This is my bad. It doesn't make the video worse, but it for sure would have enhanced my points if I had provided better visuals. Hopefully, once I begin reviewing user-submitted avatars, I'll be able to show off some cool ones that use mesh heads well. Okay, number 2. All the suggestions really just so catering towards your preferences rather than a more objective approach to it, which wouldn't usually be an issue, but the video is titled in a way to where it sounds like these are objective. And while I can understand the frustration here from Roy, I am assuming that he was expecting an unbiased guide to furry avatar creation. Listen, let's not lie to ourselves here. There is no possible way to go about making an unbiased avatar guide simply due to the nature of the subject matter. I don't really think that this matters too much, and to be honest with you, the title made you click, so I mean, that's how YouTube works, bro. That's how Mafia works. Alright, number 3. Some of the suggestions are much harder and or impossible to make look good now. Mainly the faces part, as some classic faces aren't on sale unless it's for a dynamic head, which can be expensive and not even work in some games. The other one is the suggestion to just make the items yourself. I'm going to read the rest of this comment. First, I want to address the first bit here. First off, I think you've misunderstood what I meant by classic faces. This is a misunderstanding that I see a lot when I look at the comments of my videos. I have a lot of people who seem to think that when I use the word classic, it means anything that isn't UGC, which would include 2D dynamic heads. But this isn't right. The way that I use the word classic when talking about this stuff is pretty easy to understand as long as you pay attention to the context that I use it in. When I refer to things as classic or classic style, I'm mostly referring to anything that doesn't look out of place on the platform. In the specific instance of the word being referenced here, when I'm talking about classic faces, I'm talking about any 2D faces, even the ones that are UGC. In my video, Roblox UGC Disgusts Me, I shout out numerous UGC creators who make really good classic-styled faces. I really encourage you to check both that video and those creators that I shouted out after this one, I guess. I don't know. Whenever you feel like it. Okay. Under the second part of this comment, the other one is the suggestion to just make the items yourself, which requires at least decent modeling and can cost depending on what you make. Seeing how you never chose to model and make a head/hair item to fit your character's, well, hair, after the public UGC update does prove my point more. Your criticism regarding my advice that people should create their own UGC is rather confusing to me. You're taking this suggestion way out of context and missing the point of it entirely. When I say make items yourself, it's in reference to the common scenario that I see a lot of people face where they can't find what they're looking for. And I suggested that they should just make these items themselves because somebody's going to do it eventually. It may as well be them, right? And while yes, it's true that making your own UGC requires you to learn how to make 3D models, that isn't really such a big deal that it makes my advice completely invalidated or bad. Additionally, you seem to consider me a hypocrite for not making my own UGC to create the black fur on my avatar. This is a complete logical non sequitur. I choose to wear the black beanie instead of making my own black fur UGC because I like the beanie. I don't have a reason to stop using it. Let's move on. This is reason number 4. This thing is a huge-ass wall of text. I read it myself as I was making the slideshow, right? I'm not going to read this out loud because it would probably take me like 4 minutes to read the whole thing. But basically, it's about the Roblox art style. Please watch these videos. I don't need to repeat myself over and over again about the Roblox art style. I already talked about this in my comment response to UGC Disgusts Me. I talked about it a little bit in Why Roblox Sucks Now, and I am fairly certain I talked about it in Roblox Was Banned for This. I have 4 videos that talk about the Roblox art style, and the one that focuses heavily on it is Roblox UGC Disgusts Me. If you haven't seen that video and you want to have a deeper understanding as to my opinions on the Roblox art style, I really encourage you to watch Roblox UGC Disgusts Me, as well as the comment response video that I made right after it. Okay? But that's basically all I have to say for, criticism 4 from Roy here. Number 5, your ego. The entire end portion of the video was just your ego talking. Someone disagrees, automatic bad opinion. Someone points out that maybe your avatars aren't the best and they personally think theirs is better, yet doesn't fit your description, which is just a much better way of stating opinions than your video. They are retarded and should never have an opinion. It all comes off like how Ali Coca did, an egotist who hates everyone, not in his echo chamber. Okay. And Roy, okay, I'm gonna be real with you. We just went over how the slides he's referencing have a lot of jokes, okay? And if you pay attention to what I didn't highlight on those slides, a lot of those jokes are primarily built around me playing up my ego, okay? I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that I don't have an ego, but a lot of the ego moments that he's referencing here are just me playing up that aspect of my character for entertainment. On the topic of this ego, the real one, my real ego, not the played up one, obviously. I don't consider it unwarranted necessarily, because I think my opinions are pretty correct when it comes to this sort of thing. And the problem is that a lot of people don't fully understand what my opinions are, because they're spread out across like 4 videos, right? And this leads to situations like this and many others. I've had like 3 people at this point go through a similar situation with me, where there is a fundamental misunderstanding of what I'm saying. And it doesn't really help these misunderstandings when these people believe that I'm unironically so far up my own ass that I'm not willing to listen to other people, change my mind, or admit fault. I think that this response video, and the last one to a certain degree, are proof enough that I do listen to criticism, and I am fully capable of responding to it seriously. It's just that I find it way more entertaining for both me and the audience to do what I did with the last presentation, right? Number 6. Your use of calling avatars pedophile looking doesn't really say much about the person who made them. Genuinely just says that you compare a design to pedophiles, right? He provides some anecdotal evidence. I don't really need to read this whole thing. Basically, he's a bit miffed at me for saying that the kimono avatars look like pedophiles, and he provides some anecdotal evidence about how he's talked to people both on and off Roblox, and they've never called him a pedophile or said that he looks like he is a pedophile, right? And I'm going to be real with you, I responded to this argument in the same video that you're commenting under. I'm not saying that these kimono avatar people I'm not saying that these kimono avatar people are pedophiles based solely on their avatar. I'm saying that they look like pedophiles. And this is an incredibly important distinction to make. Aside from this, there's actually a lot to talk about here. Okay. So, Roblox is an all-ages platform with a mostly underage community. Okay? I want you to put yourself in the shoes of somebody who doesn't have any knowledge about furries, but does know that Roblox is supposed to be a child-safe platform. Now, what do you think the first thought that this person would have upon seeing the average kimono avatar? And what I mean by the average kimono avatar are those naked femboy thigh-high socks ones, okay? Those are like the average, okay? I don't want to hear any cope about how it's not the average. Those are the average, okay? They're naked, they have thigh-high socks on, that's the average one, okay? It's to my understanding that an outfit like this is inherently sexual, and thus has no place on Roblox. And by extension, people wearing this kind of outfit are exposing children to sexual content. What other group of people is famous for exposing children to sexual content? I'll give you a minute to think about this, okay? Really think about this hypothetical here. Okay. If you guessed pedophiles, you'd be right. So, is it so unreasonable to assume that the average person would immediately think pedophile when they see these kinds of avatars? I really don't think so. I really don't think it's that unreasonable to think what I think, right? Furthermore, I appreciate the anecdotal evidence here about how other people have commented on your Komodo avatar, but we need to put this into perspective. Roblox has reported having about 80 million daily active users, and I know that that number isn't actually accurate, okay? However, the actual daily active users on Roblox is definitely above a million, okay? At the very least, it's above a million. And regardless of how big or how small it is, assuming we're going from a range of 1 million to 80 million, that's a lot of people. And it's so large that it is quite literally an unimaginable number of people, okay? The average Roblox user on any given day is more than likely only going to see a fraction of those 80 million people. So you also need to consider that on Roblox, you can't just call people pedophiles. It's against the rules. So with all this in mind, this is why my assumption is not based on people saying that they think kimono users look like pedophiles. It's about what they think. More specifically, the first immediate thought that most people are going to have when they see an avatar like this, right? They may not say it, but they definitely thought it, okay? As for people who aren't on Roblox, it's no surprise that you haven't been told this, right? Because you will only look like a pedophile if you dress up like this on a platform like Roblox, which is important context to this entire thing that I'm saying that I think you're misunderstanding entirely. Even beyond that, the average person isn't just going to tell you that they think you're a pedophile, because the average person doesn't want to start random conflict like that. So overall, this is sort of just a nothing burger statement, right? And this is it. This is the penultimate criticism from Roy here, where he says, and finally, while not big enough to require an entire portion, you claim to care about art styles a lot, and then proceed to show an AI image of Goku wearing a Never Goon shirt. So, I think it goes without saying that this is stupid, right? This is dumb. This makes no sense, okay? You seem to think that it's hypocritical of me to care as much as I do about the art style of the things I enjoy, because I used a funny AI-generated Goku image to emphasize a joke at the end of my presentation. This is like the same thing. This is like saying that somebody doesn't actually enjoy Dragon Ball because they like to watch Kobe Shinobi make Goku say the N-word and do galaxy gas. It's completely nonsensical. And with that last criticism out of the way, that's basically it. So, I mean, in conclusion, like, basically I'm the smartest and greatest motherfucker to ever live.